Hello once more. We're back for the second movement in Antonín Dvořák's Ninth Symphony from the New World, composed in 1893 while he was working in New York. And the second movement is a Largo, which means broad, and in practice it's a musical direction that suggests a slower pace, certainly unhurried, not rushing, and with a broad scope to it, often for composition or movements that are intended to have great emotional and mental consideration, and I think that is very much the case here. As I explained, this comes from a Dvořák the Symphonies compilation, and we hear the London Symphony Orchestra as conducted by István Kertész, although again, I'm probably saying that incorrectly. And as I said, this is a Largo, so let's get to it. This is Antonín Dvořák, the second movement of his Ninth Symphony from the New World, and it is a Largo. It's sublime, right? Absolutely sublime. Not the only sublime piece I'll listen to tonight. More on that coming for the final reaction, or the final piece of Classical Days. But it's incredible. And in fact, I feel like that movement hit me more powerfully in this listen than it ever has before. I often think of the fourth movement like many others. That first movement, it's very striking as well and has a nice balance between more dramatic moments and more lyrical and folksy sequences. But this whole movement is tender, it's warm, it's sublime, it's inviting, and it just really hit me well. It is a movement that I think in part is used in Notame Cantabile. I know the fourth movement without question, and in the context of the narrative, not just as background music. The fourth movement of this symphony features prominently, and I think there's sections in that first movement as well. But hearing it now, and having gone through the Notame Cantabile entire run of the show, which is to say the regular show, the 2 special episodes, and the 2 parts of the final movement movie, in the last 10 days or so, as I prepared to and as I've executed these Classical Days, I swear in 1 or 2 places parts of this movement play as well. So it's just another indication, number 1, of how great this symphony is, and number 2, how incredible Notame Cantabile is. I'm going to keep pushing that show, and I will once again put a link to my full watch-along of the show over on Patreon in the video description. But yes, we definitely have a Largo here. There is emotional breadth and width and a broad character to the sweet, tender melodies and emotion on offer. So it's just another composition that makes me insist that Dvořák is one of the world's best composers, which I do think some people recognize, but perhaps not as many as should, which of course is part of why I do reactions. More broadly, in terms of all types of music, sometimes bringing music to the attention of those who become friends and part of the community on my channel, and of course in other cases, people sending music to me that I may not be familiar with or only vaguely familiar with, to then celebrate and enjoy and disseminate to a wider audience these albums, songs, and artists. But yes, in the case of Dvořák, I am one of his biggest champions, and I look forward to hearing the final 2 movements of this excellent symphony. So I'll see you in a moment for movement 3. Peace.